But we are back for another State of the Franchise. We are going to be talking about 49ers player under the most pressure, and we're also going to take a look at DraftKings odds for who's actually going to take some hardware home at the end of the year. We're going to get into that all right after the correct intro. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Shout out to all the spicy sourdough squad. We are back, Jason. It's good to see your face again. How are you doing, my man?
It's great to see you, and that intro, I miss it, miss you guys and everything. So a little bit like just real quick because I haven't been streaming for a little bit, so I kind of wanted to just update on that because people have been asking me. Just needed some time
Where's
off,
Jason Aponte?
right? Needed some time off. Needed to not talk about the quarterback position. Needed to kind of step away, hang out with the family, get myself together, and I think more importantly, I didn't really like some of the way that I was coming off on some of the streams or interacting. So I just wanted to kind of change myself a little bit more and get back to the fun freewheeling guy that I am and can't allow to like feed into the negativity. So, you don't have to like announce it to everybody that you took a dip, but that's exactly why I did it. So yeah.
So basically, Jason did some self scouting, also took some me time, which I've been trying to do, Jason. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, my stream schedule hasn't been, the 5 days a week like we normally do. I'm trying to find those little rest breaks because, again, it is daunting talking about the same thing over and over again. Again, we're all on social media. We all hear, whether it's from national analysts, whether we hear from our own fan base or our content creator circle, like, we all know what it comes back to. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if that topic somehow pops up,
Nope.
but
Nope. All right. Here it is. Here it is, Brad.
he's saying nah.
Here it is, Brad. The only reason that we will discuss the quarterback is when we get to the part about the odds of the season
Okay.
awards, because those people are listed. This will
Okay.
be a quarterback discourse free show. Forewarning. Forewarning. Absolutely no discussions about anything. And here's why. There's no new information. There's nothing going on. I don't want to keep saying the same things over and over again.
Well, does this count as quarterback talk? I mean, ESPN did let go of the legendary Steve Young today. I mean, they let Todd McShay go. They let
Yeah.
Susie Kohler. Like,
Culver.
I mean, so many quality analysts. What was your take on that? I was pretty surprised myself.
I mean, the corporate world, when people do layoffs, they don't lay off the bottom; they lay off the people at the top, right? Like, so if a company's losing money, they don't get rid of the people that are lower level that don't get paid as much. But it's just shocking to see all these names over and over, and a little bit of it has to do with the fact that it's rumored that Pat McAfee is going to be around and he's going to cost a bag, cost a bag as well too. So that kind of has to push people out of the way. But my question
That's
is,
interesting.
I mean, ESPN has already kind of been trending towards the yelling at each other shows and everything, and less analysis, right? Like, and I'm not trying to downplay ESPN or anything like that. I don't engage in that content anymore because it's not of as interest to me. And the best show on ESPN is like buried at like 3:30 in the morning, which is NFL Matchup, which teaches you X's and O's, and that's just, they've been gravitating more to a argument debate style, but the analysis is really going out the door. And it's just, I'm interested to figure out. I know obviously Stephen A's left, Scott Van Pelt, possibly Pat McAfee. Are these guys going to do all these shows? Mina Kimes is still around. Like, are they going to be the only ones who are able to do these shows now? And it's going to be interesting to see where this goes here.
I think it really speaks to the changing landscape of sports media and all media in general. Like, obviously, to get these extremely talented, extremely well credentialed type analysts, you got to pay a lot, right? You really do. And these, of course, ESPN's owned by Disney. They're really not hurting for money if we really want to take a step back and look at it. But I think it just speaks to, again, they have these figures that they have to hit internally. And on top of that, it also we're seeing the trends of users change. Like I hear about it all the time. Like, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat feel this way. You used to tune into ESPN hoping that they would spend a minute and a half talking about your team, what the current goings are, whatever. Now they barely get to it. And if they do get to it, like we talked about, it's about one particular subject. And it is one of the number one storylines in the NFL, and rightfully so. So it's on loop, but that's all they're talking about now. They're not talking about, the defense that the 49ers have. They're not talking about the skill positions that the 49ers have. Kyle Shanahan heading into year 7 and those types of expectations. They might touch on it, but it all comes back to the number one storyline, which we're not talking about, right? So it's interesting to see how everything has changed. And again, like, I think it was Tony who commented when I was like, I tweeted out Steve Young's the number one free agent in the NFL, and he's like, oh, he should start his own YouTube channel. I think it speaks to the trends of where users are. I think users want to be able to connect with the type of content they want more. And so there's now more avenues for direct. And those ESPNs that used to kind of gatekeep all the information, like you only like even going way back as another example, like you could only watch I wasn't alive for this period, but you could only watch cartoons on Saturdays, right? Like at a certain point, like
What are you trying to say? I wasn't alive at this point. What are you trying to say, bro? Is that a shot at me because
it's
you know
not a
that
shot at you. At least I just don't remember. But the point being is like there is this like maturation of the way you have accessibility to things. And I think because you have all this accessibility, ESPN is seeing those things struggle, I guess. And it's just interesting to see, right? Like the way everything's evolving over time.
Yeah, and for sure. Again, even people who live in the Bay Area, who the local news is obviously going to put more of an eye on the team. That's what YouTube is so great for. That's what podcasts are so good for, is because you can focus your content needs right to yourself. You don't have to wait for them to talk about it, right? Like I'm lucky enough, yeah, get him, Moody. I feel like again with me, being a Yankee
My
fan,
bad, Joe.
they usually talk about the Yankees a lot on ESPN or that around that time. I don't consume ESPN's content. I don't really, to be fair, I don't really consume anybody else's content either, just because I don't want subconsciously or consciously their thoughts to seep into my. I'd rather be like 100% dead wrong than kind of parrot something that I heard, and that's no shot at anybody or anything like that. I think there's a
Try to gravitate towards like the narrative opposed to just speaking your mind and giving your take on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'd rather it come from a place where, okay, this is what I got to, rather than, hearing it from somewhere else and kind of turning it into my own thing. So that's the reason that I kind of stay away from sports talk and anything like that myself, is because I have to make sure that my thoughts are at least just like strictly mine and not trying to take from anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely interesting to see Steve Young let go. Would love to see him with the 49ers in some capacity. I don't know if that's as a kind of color commentator, analyst, or just
He should
around the
start his own
team.
YouTube.
Just showing up.
If he starts his own YouTube, we're cooked, pal.
Yeah, we already got Kurt Warner out here. He's got his own channel. Like
Yeah.
you see it. Like I mean, even like a Bay Area radio legend Damon Bruce, like he got let go, laid off from 95.7, and he immediately started a YouTube channel. It's where everything's headed. It's definitely the trends, but there's also some trends around the San Francisco 49ers outside the quarterback position, because I think we can all say probably one of the number one position groups under the most pressure with the 49ers is the quarterbacks. So we can get that out of the way.
Full stop.
When we're talking about players, position groups, even coaches, let's talk about guys that are under pressure heading into 2023, because I think pressure is a good thing, right? That means there's expectations. People expect you to be at a certain level. And you can look at that two different ways, but I think that's a good thing. And I think for the 49ers, that's a great thing that there's a lot of pressure. So if you had to start this off with naming a player, coach, what have you, of someone being under pressure heading into 2023, who do you got?
I think we could start with Danny Gray, and I think this is more about pressure to show something on the field, get on the field. It's going to be really hard, I think, for him to see the field much outside of a specialized role. When you look at obviously Debo and Ayuk when they're healthy, they're the two guys, and the 49ers don't really run a bunch of three wide receiver sets. And seems like Ray McLeod and Jawan Jennings have a stranglehold on that third and fourth. And again, that's situational. Ray's more of a home run hitter. Jawan is
Mhm.
your run blocker, your dog, and your third down red zone guy. So Danny Gray's got to find a way to get on the field and push himself on the field with more routes and being able to show that he's developed as a receiver. So and show that he's just not a guy that everybody looks at just for speed. And how do you do that when you have these guys in front of you that are proven so much that deserve to play as well too? So I think it's Danny Gray to start with this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one because Danny Gray was a third round draft pick. We understand that those third rounders are developing a bit of a reputation for the San Francisco 49ers, right? Because we haven't seen them act, outside of Fred Warner, who's the gold standard, there hasn't been a huge success rate. Trey Sermon, TDP, you might be able to throw into that pressure
He's
cooker as
probably
well.
we'll probably talk about him in a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah, so Danny Gray, like, absolutely. Of course, we talked about it many times. Like, I have high hopes for Danny. I think he is more than just that 4-3-3 burner. I think him adding size, I think, from what we've seen, he's been cooking in the lab, and I think he's taking that pressure on. And I think the pressure is 100% on because you've got guys like Ronnie Bell. You bring in Chris Connolly. You have Tay Martin nipping at his heels. Like, Tay Martin to me is an NFL wide receiver. And, I was even going back through some clips last night. I was like, and Tay was popping at training camp last year as a rookie, undrafted free agent. And I was like, man. And we heard that he even took strides again. So we know the 49ers have brought in they have like 13, 14 receivers heading into camp. And there's some quality names there. So the pressure is on. My hope for Danny is he stays on the roster, but he pushes Ray. I don't think he's going to jump Jawan.
Mm-mm.
Jawan is locked. He's third in Jawan. I mean, he's got that dog in him. We know what he is. I think Danny Gray is a good one to start with. I think there is pressure because if they keep 5, that 5th spot is going to be heavily debated. So I think that's a good one. If I had to pick one, let's see, most pressure heading into next year, it feels probably a little bit obvious, but I feel like Javon Kinlaw. I feel like
Yeah,
Javon has a lot of pressure, and because we know what it is,
Mhm.
the bad stuff that came out of that Philly game. You had Baldy talking about it. You had everyone showing those clips, and then not picking up the 5th-year option and things like that, and the first round draft status, and of course just the health, just to stay healthy. I still am a believer in Javon, but again, we all understand what it is. Like, you got to be able to be healthy, and you have to be on the field. But the 49ers bringing Hargrave in, I think, alleviates some pressure, but I don't think it changes the expectation or maybe lack thereof. So Javon Kinlaw, obviously probably heading into his last year with the 49ers, depending on his performance next year. Maybe he has a great year and they bring him back, but Javon feels like he's probably got a decent amount of pressure on his shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, this is an easy one, absolutely, and this is a good one to point out. The thing is that it's turned into now what can you salvage from the time that Javon Kinlaw's here in terms of production, and that's all you can really get. And it's turned from this could be a guy who would replace Buckner to now he's a rotational guy that you're just hoping to see a long season out of and see what you have. And it's completely changed the discussion on him. I don't see a way unless there's a major injury and Kinlaw takes a huge leap that this year would be a way to salvage the entire time. And he would have to be insanely productive. I mean, like, he would have to sack the quarterback, be a dog, like essentially be worthy of the draft capital that they invested. So that's what kind of makes this situation, I guess, frustrating more than anything is now it's more about just salvaging what you can get from him. And
Mhm.
he's turned from a potential cornerstone for your defensive line to now just a rotational guy, and you're kind of hoping that you get a solid rotational guy. So yeah, this one just doesn't feel good all the way around, but you still have to, root for the player, and you never know, stranger things have happened in the league as well too. But obviously next year he's going to be a free agent, so he has to put some things on tape to make people want to bring him into their building, aside from the fact that they're just going to bet on his freakish stature.
Yeah, for sure. Who's another guy that you got for being under the radar?
Yeah, I mean, under the pressure right now, it's just third round. Let's stick with it. It's Ambry Thomas. I mean, we have literally heard so much through minicamp, through the right here that just ended the mandatory minicamp about other secondary players. You never hear anything about Ambry Thomas anymore. When you look at the way that the 49ers used him last year, when there were plenty of games, the 49ers were banged up at corner. Times where Mooney left the game and they had nobody on the outside, especially after Mosley got injured. And Ambry Thomas doesn't see the field. So less about how we feel about it and more about the coaching staff and how they feel about him. So from a guy who started in the NFC Championship game, out of necessity, to just being someone who can't see the field in his third year, this is pretty frustrating, and it feels like he has a lot to prove, and he's really, really got an uphill climb to make this team this year.
Yeah, we were both in training camp for his rookie season, and it wasn't anything to write home about.
Mm-mm.
It really wasn't anything that was inspiring. And then when he got in, it wasn't really inspiring either. But what we did see was incremental improvements from the baseline that we originally saw. So there was some hope, but then you and I showed up to training camp last year, and we were like, "Oh
Uh-oh.
gosh." Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was like Ambry was 7-Eleven, just like any wide receiver that went against him was always open, and it was a tough going. He didn't even see that field last year, and they got hurt at
Mm-hmm.
corner. Obviously, Emmanuel Mosley goes out. He still didn't see the field. So, it definitely I agree with that one. There's a lot of pressure on Ambry to make the roster this go around. It's going to be interesting how Steve Wilks attacks his development to
Mm-hmm.
see if his DB kind of expertise, if he can unload anything onto Ambry or unlock Ambry. It'll be interesting. I know they like his skill set. I know they like his physical tools and traits, but it's more than that at this point. He's got to put himself in position. And
The other thing is, did you get to hear when Steve Wilkes talked about his coaching style, and he talked about how he coaches DBs, like the way that he does it, like the whole defense, he goes DBs in, like he works in. So the DBs are always going to get that sort of attention from him. Like I think we all knew that he was going to be a DB guru, and that's what he's known for, and everything as well too. But I do think that if you see jumps from anybody in the secondary, including Ambry Thomas, I don't think it's going to be it's going to be hard to say that it's not Steve Wilkes himself, especially with the way he described how he coaches the defense from inside out or outside in, if that's how want to perceive it.
yeah, definitely. So it'll be interesting to see there. I got another one,
Hmm.
Charlene with perfect timing. Elijah Mitchell, I think, has a
Hmm.
lot of pressure on him. I
Hmm.
mean, we do have to take a step back a little bit. He
Hmm.
was a sixth round draft pick.
Hmm.
So, from that standpoint, he's exceeded expectations by
Hmm.
far from a talent level, production level. But where the pressure I think is on is for his availability.
Yep.
Can he stay healthy? And if he can't stay healthy, he is going to lose his job, in my opinion, because we saw it last year at training camp. Jordan Mason, I mean, the hype train is real, and it's real for a reason. Jordan Mason pushed out Trey Sermon. He pushed out Jermichael Hasty. Jermichael Hasty was also having a good camp and also had shown in the past that he could be effective in moments. I think back to that Philly game in 2021 where he had that beautiful run for a touchdown off the right side. Like he had shown before, but Jordan Mason pushed out two guys that had NFL experience as an undrafted free agent, one that was a third round draft pick. So I don't think Jordan Mason's slowing down anytime soon. So for Elijah, the pressure is on because he has to be available. And if he's not available, he might lose his job to Jordan Mason. And I think, he's heading to year 3. He's going to have to be up. He's going to be up for a contract in year 4. So, yeah, and we've seen 49ers. We've seen the 49ers flip running backs if they can get value for them. We've seen them take Jeff Wilson, flip him for a 5th. We've seen them take Matt Breida, undrafted free agent, flip him for a 5th. They will flip running backs. And so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think they'll necessarily trade Elijah Mitchell unless they got like a 3rd or a 2nd for him from someone. But I think he's under some pressure right now.
Well, isn't that a coincidence? Because today I had to write about Elijah Mitchell, and I think I'm echoing almost everything that you say. I have the article up here; it hasn't been put up yet, but it's about a few things too that are kind of strange, and me just putting pieces together. Anthony Lynn spoke about when Christian McCaffrey is off the field, that each running back, whoever it is, and is on the field, needs to be able to do somewhat what Christian McCaffrey can do to keep the offense from being predictable. Right? Like if Christian McCaffrey's on the field, then you know that he's a threat to catch the ball. Well, everybody has to be that same threat. So not only one, the defense doesn't get to change and get a tell, but 2, it helps keep Kyle Shanahan in a rhythm. And Anthony Lynn spoke about every single running back that was there except for Elijah Mitchell. And Elijah Mitchell was injured, during OTAs. We understand that, working through it again, right? So, coming off an offseason, he's injured getting into OTAs. Okay, no big deal, right? Like as long as you're ready to go for camp.
Right.
But the reason I bring it up is last year, Anthony Lynn, when he spoke about the running backs, literally listed every single running back except Trey Sermon. And Trey Sermon ended up getting sent off. So I don't know if that's a parallel to that, but I did think the same exact thing that you're saying. It's like Elijah Mitchell breaks the rookie rushing record in 10 games started, right? That's crazy to think. But that same thing is, man, he wasn't available for how many games? And then last year, he's only available for 5. And the thing that makes Elijah Mitchell so important is because not only is he's a great runner, like he can take what's given to him, is we have to keep Christian McCaffrey healthy. And you have to be able to take some of that off of his plate as well, too. It's got a nose. Look, Elijah's got a nose for the end zone. I think he's got, 7 touchdowns over 242 carries. He doesn't carry a big cap hit, obviously, 6-rounder. I think it's this year it's 940,000 base salary. His cap hit is 985,892, and his dead cap is 91,000. So again, it's nothing to have him. It's nothing to move him either. But I think, obviously the skill set can grow if he can catch the ball better and do what Anthony Lynn was kind of talking about. But I think it all just comes down to health. And I agree with you 100%. Jordan Mason was an undrafted free agent last year. There's an undrafted free agent that, you could probably see when you watch him and you watch his speed that could probably push to get on this roster. And then now you're really starting to think about investment. Do you go away from TDP? It is an interesting conversation, but Elijah Mitchell's vital to this team because he does need to help keep Christian McCaffrey healthy.
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see what that running back rotation looks like behind CMC because you just talked about it. Like, I don't know if it's Kyle's stubbornness or whatever, but didn't it feel like at points we were like, Kyle, we could take CMC out right now and give him a little breather and,
yes,
maybe give Jordan Mason a couple extra carries to keep him. We got the playoffs. We see the playoffs. We're gonna be there. Maybe just 1 or 2, 3, 4 carries. Give it to Jordan instead of CMC.
Especially when the game's out of control, like it's out of hand. It's like, man, can you get that man off the field?
They're
what
just
are we
running
doing?
down clock. Like, oh, here you go, CMC. Like, I get it. There's a trust level there, but like,
but come on, man, hand it off to somebody else. How do you gain confidence in somebody else as well too? But yeah, I think what's gonna really determine who stays and who goes is the confidence that they'll show in Jordan Mason. Because if Jordan Mason can find a way to get off from being a primarily special teams guy, which is why he has sticking power on the 53, because he makes plays whenever he's on the field, whether that's special teams or whenever you call on him. But if he starts to make so many plays that they're just like, hey, we can't even use this guy on special teams anymore, or at least as much, then you'll see his role grow, and then that can change things, right? Like Elijah Mitchell coming back basically put Jeff Wilson out the door. I think, again, I don't think the 49ers will do anything rash when it comes to Mitchell, just because that position has seen injuries the entire time. And McCaffrey played 17 games last year for the first time in a while. And then you have Mitchell, who himself is injured. I don't think you would necessarily get away from somebody that you can trust with the ball like Mitchell at times.
Yeah, and although Jordan Mason is still a little bit unproven in game time action, we saw how effective he is as a pass catcher out of the backfield. Like, so almost to the point where we might be definitively saying I could make the argument that Jordan Mason is a better pass catcher out of the backfield than Elijah Mitchell right now today.
Lynn said the
But
same thing.
but we will find out in training camp. And like you said, being able to have a back who's a true 3-down back, just like CMC, who can do it between the tackles and do it in the passing game, do it as a blocker, do it as a receiver. Again, one of Jordan Mason's best attributes that had me banging the table for him last year was this dude was making catch after catch. Like we were like, he was making wide receiver level type difficult catches. And I was like, oh, that's different because he has a power back type build and that kind of one cut running style, but to be able to catch passes out of the backfield, that's why Elijah Mitchell, the pressure's on. I love Elijah. I think Elijah is a phenomenal running back. And if theoretically you could have all three available, I don't think Elijah is in any form in any type of way going to miss out on the roster. He's going to be on this roster. You alluded to the numbers. It's just, can he hold on to the snap share that Jordan is just pushing on him? So it'll be interesting. But you got another under the pressure cooker 49er for us.
Yeah, Ross Dwelly. Hey, buddy, look, there's two tight ends in town, man. And you know what's funny is last year we kind of had the same sentiment when it came to this because they bring in Tyler Croft. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to say his name, but they bring in Tyler Croft and they have another tight end who's a bigger guy, can catch the ball. And it's like, are they pushing Ross? Like, I understand they brought him back, but his contract's not immovable at all either. And when you see the 2 draft picks, it starts to tell you where they're going to load up at this point. You know, unfortunately, when you have a team as good as the 49ers, 1 through 53, there's going to be good football players that are not going to make the team. And the thing is you're not going to be able to hide them on the practice squad, and it's just unfortunate. Why do you think so many teams just jump at when guys are let go? It could be even bottom-level guys that are fighting for that last 53rd spot. This team's ready to grab them. I mean, JaMycal Hasty's thriving right now in Jacksonville in his little role as a third down back over there. So, you know, it's always going to be that way, but when you look at the way that they drafted, when you look at the way that they stockpile that position, I mean, Charlie Warner's got his spot. Kittle's got his spot. That's 2, right? So which one of the 2 youngsters is going to make the team? I don't think either of them can make it on the practice squad. And I think that Ross Dwelly, unfortunately, because he doesn't offer too much blocking, and he is a pass catcher primarily, which is a big tell when he's on the field, it just hasn't translated so much, really. I mean, look, he has games where he looks good when George Kittle's injured, but it just – for the amount of time that they've kept him around, the level of production just isn't there. And it's not even like when he's called on in a pinch, he really, really produces over time for you. It's kind of like he has to get schemed open at times.
Yeah, I mean, like in 2019, when he had to fill in for Kyle Juszczyk, like he has shown like he had been able to be relied on in certain spots, but and I mean, he had a touchdown last year. I think it was week 2, I think, against Seattle. So like, he shows an ability, but that was a guy that I had high expectations for heading into 2021, and that was the year he got effectively benched for Charlie Warner because of his blocking ability. That was like a big red flag, and then obviously you stack up the 2 tight ends that the 49ers just drafted, and I think they're keeping 4. Like that's just how I see it. I think they're keeping 4. I think they're going to want to keep Warner for his blocking alone because they have a working relationship with Warner as a blocker and they know they can rely on him. I just picture Kyle going into a game. Imagine Kittle goes down and all you have is Latu and Willis, and both of them are struggling in the run game. Kyle's run game would take a massive hit because they run so much at those edges, and it's really the focal point are the combo blocks between the tight end and tackle and Juice and where he's going. And if any one of those 3 go down, specifically tight end, fullback, it changes how he has to call games. So Warner is like the safety blanket for the run game. Latu and Willis are you spent capital on them. They have upside. You know what Warner is. He's probably not going to be a receiving threat, but you know what he is as a blocker, which I think is going to ultimately, and also playing special teams, is going to keep him locked in. We'll see. Yeah, I think Dwelly is absolutely in the pressure cooker
And
right now for sure.
And I feel like, Brad, there's somebody, a tight end that's available that we're not aware of or really is on our radar that the 49ers are going to wind up bringing into camp or something like that. Like either he's played with Shanahan or he understands the system or, there's just always somebody that they end up bringing in later on towards there. So,
That
yeah,
is
I
true.
mean, it feels like Ross has he doesn't have an uphill battle to like make the 53, but I wouldn't be shocked. Like it wouldn't shock me if they move on from him this year.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. I got a pressure cooker one,
Okay.
just for you specifically.
Oh,
Um,
here we go. I can feel it. Is this a joke? Don't do it. Go.
but in all honesty, I
Yes.
think there is pressure just because we understand the expectation levels that are set when you are a
Mhm.
kicker
Mhm.
drafted at pick 99.
Mhm.
I think Jake Moody is under a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
not a type of tangible pressure where like, oh, he's got to worry about his roster spot.
Mhm.
Is Zane Gonzalez really going to beat him out? I don't think that pressure exists. I think just the simple fact that
Mhm.
he is a rookie and the expectations that are set. Now, he comes from a big time program. He's played in a lot of big time games and made a lot of big time kicks. So he's proven, at least at the college level, he can do it. He's done it at a historical level in college. It's now transferring that to the field at the NFL level. And again, just proving you can do it. Not getting the yips, not shanking one and spiraling. You know what I mean? Because I think for our expertise, or maybe I should say lack thereof, of evaluating kickers, I think one thing that we could kind of wrap our heads around is the mental aspect of it.
Mhm.
Again, whether you're a shooter, a golfer, whatever, like you understand the mental rhythm that you have to find, and that if that takes a hit, how it can spiral. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with his leg. He's proven he can boot the ball. I think he hit like a 63 yarder during minicamp or whatever. That's not the problem. It's just the mental of dealing with the pressure, the high pressure moments, the stacked team, kicks that are going to determine playoff seeding. That's it. That pressure is baked in as a kicker. But again, the pressure of being a third round pick and then, stepping into that role and, filling in for Robbie Gould, who was pretty darn good for the 49ers, especially during the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on to that. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. When you look at the draft capital, you look at the team that's going to be in games that are going to be playoff games as well too. We kind of got spoiled with Robbie. And that's another part of this whole, just moving on and just getting a new kicker type thing. It's like, you don't know what you got until it's gone type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that there's pressure there. I mean, just because he's going to be in high pressure games, the 49ers play games where they get down to the last kick. And, Robbie's been effective when he's been here, and he's done it. So, and this is me being completely serious and not angry at all about the kicker position. Like I do think this is a valid concern. Well, I think it's a valid point out. Honestly, it's going to come down to the kid, and I think from everything that we're hearing, it's not going to be that big of an issue. And never doubt the coaching staff and the team and the culture that they've built to rally around him and everything.
Never a doubt, Jay. So we can never doubt what they do with their
No,
roster building,
no,
right?
never, never. Why would you say that? Do you know better than the team? No.
All right, man. Who else you got? We got the kicker out the way.
I mean, I would go back to TDP, but again, the more and more that I hear them talk about him a little bit more, I think that they would give him an extra shot, another look. I do think that they believe that it was just last year with injuries as well too. But again, here we are talking about a third rounder, and it doesn't have to be third round running back. It's just pretty much the third round has had its issues. And again, when Anthony Lynn was talking about running backs, he did talk well about TDP, and it does sound like he's been working with him as well too. So we still think that he's under pressure, but I do think that he's got a longer leash than I think people would think at this point. Because if they're keeping obvious, well, do you think Christian McCaffrey makes this team, Brad?
Ooh, I don't
I don't
know.
know. Roster bubble. So McCaffrey,
Breaking news.
Mason, Mitchell, Juszczyk, that's four. Then who's there like at the end, right? So I still think that it might be TDP at this point, but I do think that if he doesn't watch his back from the undrafted free agent that's in, the new Mason, he's might be in trouble if he doesn't pick it up.
Yeah, definitely. He's in the Ambry Thomas category, kind of the Danny Gray category. They're have third round draft capital assigned to them. And there is going to be expectations. Again, Jake Moody enters that. Latu enters that. Jair Brown. I don't think anyone's really too concerned with Jair right now. We all expect Jair to be a good player, but there's like there's that like almost like this cloud hanging over the third rounders not named Fred Warner. So we'll see how it ultimately plays out with TDP, but I agree he's definitely in the pressure cooker. Drake Jackson for me, I think, is
Wow, I
someone
like it.
who has to deal with some second year pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being a second round draft pick, 61 overall. We didn't think he would even make it that far. And then kind of what happened at the end of the year, clearly the coaching staff called him out a little bit to the point where they even just shut him down. And him accepting that and putting in the work. And he looks massive. And we know the talent is there, but refining the talent, adding tools to the tool bag, and being able to play an entire season, I think, the coaching staff put the pressure on him at the end of the year. I think he accepted that challenge. And I don't think he's in any type of, roster bubble or anything like that, not even close. But I think he will be leaned on. I think he will be expected to be a integral part of that rotation, whether that's the Omenihu role, whether getting more looks on the edge as a third down pass rusher. It's going to be interesting to see ultimately how Kocurek puts together those packages because of the addition of Javon Hargrave. I think it creates so much flexibility for them. I've been talking about Eric going back to the edge, being able to shift inside, outside. What does that mean for Drake? Does he kick more inside? I think Clelin Ferrell has an opportunity to be an Omenihu type guy. So it's going to be interesting to see where Drake Jackson ultimately ends up in that rotation. But I think the pressure is on just because of the draft capital that was given to him, the expectations, and the way the kind of the year ended. So I think that creates its own pressure. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that pressure manifests. So far, it seems like it's manifested itself in a good spot.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because pressure to me meant pressure to make this team. And Drake Jackson certainly is going to make this team. But I do think there is pressure for all the reasons you said. And I think you don't look any further than the fact that, there's a lot of very talented pass rushers still available, hired guns for a year. And the 49ers have money. It's not like they're strapped for cash. They have about $9-10 million. So they could go out there and add somebody, but I think that does tell you that there is a bit of pressure on Drake Jackson because they believe in him. And again, when he came out and when he was drafted, the point was really, well, can he add more bags to his pass rush? He does need to get a little bit bigger, does need to help a little bit more in his run support. Sounds like a lot of those things are being ticked off right now. We're not going to fully be able to see where those things have gone until about training camp or when the pads really start popping. So it's going to be interesting. But I think you're absolutely right about pressure in terms of they need him to produce and they expect him in whatever this rotation is with him and Clelin Ferrell and Bryant and Jordan Willis isn't even back, right? Like I think he's not even back this year. So they are looking at him now to be that guy. So again, this is a good call.
Yeah, there's plenty of pressure to go around on this team. Like you said, I think you quantified it well. There's pressure to make the roster. There's that type of pressure of being one of those fringe guys, and there's also pressure to meet expectation. And I think there's two different types of pressures, but nonetheless, there's pressure to be successful in this league, whether it's team wide, coaching wide, whatever. So plenty of pressure to go around. Pleasure as well.
Hey,
go for it. Hey,
I thought it was a family show.
This is a family show. We're having a good time.
We are.
But also, we wanted to get into some of the odds for some of the 49ers that have an opportunity to collect some hardware at the end of the year. Jason did an article on Niners Nation, kind of looking at DraftKings odds, the players involved. And why don't you kick us off into that next topic?
Yeah, so obviously right now, all of these odds are based on, perfect world scenario. All these guys are going to play. Nobody really knows anything, but I thought it was a fun little exercise just to see where the 49ers lay in terms of all of these things. So I guess we'll start with MVP. MVP is going to be is quarter. That's a quarterback. That's a quarterback award, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It's
Okay.
100% a quarterback award.
Okay. So look, plus 700 for Patrick Mahomes. Right there, Joe Burrow plus 750, Josh Allen plus 800, Jalen Hurts plus 1100. And the funniest thing is the one player that's highest up for the 49ers is Brock Purdy at 4,500. But the first non-quarterback that's listed is Christian McCaffrey at plus 8,000. Funny enough, it's 4,500 for Purdy and plus 5,000 for Trey Lance, which is tied with Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love. I think again, these odds are based on whatever it is that Vegas believes is going to happen. Obviously, they believe that Purdy is going to play more games this season, and that's probably the smart money. If there was a bet for that, I would put money on that. But it's kind of funny that the odds are this close for Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. And I thought that was a little bit interesting. But yeah, I don't know. This year, I don't think obviously a 49er has a chance to win this award. I don't think that's going to happen. It has to be a quarterback, and I think this is the year that Joe Burrow gets his.
That's a good prediction. Do you think it's so close because the way Vegas quantifies information? I think we are racking our brains, hearing talking points and or opinions that are changing narratives surrounding the quarterback. Do you think the reason why it's so close is just because they haven't gotten definitive information of will Brock Purdy play all 17 games in the regular season? Who will start the season? Will it be Trey Lance? Did Sam Darnold have any stake in these odds? I'm curious to see if he's up there or if he's way down the list. But I think that's how I would quantify, for the little bit I know about betting and how odds makers go about things. I know they are access to information, and that's what drives these numbers. So my assumption is they don't have quality information, which is why they are so close.
Yeah, and I think again, it's about, you can't put odds out there if you know something, because I think there's a large sentiment about Vegas knows something that you don't and everything. And house wins. I think that's kind of fair. But you can't really put it so far ahead, because then everybody will start saying, well, what do they know? What do they know? I think at this point, these odds are pretty much just, hey, this is the information that everybody has. This is how we're gonna calculate these odds, and it's reflected by the news that's there. Funny enough, Brad Graham, there's a quarterback that's tied with Christian McCaffrey at plus 8,000, and I just told you that Brock Purdy is at plus 4,500. So there's better odds that Brock Purdy is going to win MVP than Christian McCaffrey and this quarterback. Brad, I'll give you two guesses. You're probably going to only need one.
For
who's the quarterback tied? Who's the quarterback that is tied with Christian McCaffrey at plus 8,000 odds?
The quarterback.
I'll give you two guesses, but you're only going to need one.
I don't know. Is it Sam Darnold?
No, it's James Richard Garoppolo. Hey, buddy. Miss you, pal.
See you soon.
See you soon. Oh,
maybe. I don't know.
He better be there. No. We're going. Also, we'll talk about this offline. You're going, I'm going, and he better be there as well, too. So, if I have to drag Jimmy Garoppolo to that stadium at 7 a.m. in Vegas, I need it.
I've had some conversation with Raider fans. They don't seem too confident about Jimmy Garoppolo, but we'll see. We'll see if he's there.
Remember my prediction. When they win a game or something like that and Jimmy throws like a game-winning touchdown, watch them switch this quick. Quick.
It's going to happen.
Yep.
But it's pretty funny. I've hopped into some of their comment sections. They do not like the direction of the Raiders. It's pretty funny.
Yep.
But anyways, offensive player of the year. Break this down for us.
Yeah, so again, offensive player of the year, I think this is probably one of the ones where the 49ers have a really good chance of doing this. I mean, and this would have to be dependent on Christian McCaffrey. So when you look at the odds, Christian McCaffrey's at plus 1,300. He's ahead of Austin Eckler, but he only has two people in front of them, and they're tied for the same amount, and that's plus 1,000. That's Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And look, if Christian McCaffrey puts together a 17-game season, and if you extrapolate his 49ers numbers across 17 games, not his Panthers and 49ers numbers. Like if you extrapolate those numbers for 17 games, it makes for a hell of a case for Christian McCaffrey. I think that he's got and obviously Vegas thinks that he has just as good a shot. He's third behind Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I just will tell you this. I don't want this to happen, but again, I've kind of said it over and over. It's going to be hard for me to see Christian McCaffrey playing all 17 games this season. Probably will play around 15, 16. I'm sure he'll miss a game either because they can win a game without him. They don't need to really push him or anything like that. So I do think that is going to get in his way this time. This year, I've got Justin Jefferson winning this award. He's going into a contract year, man. Adam Thielen's not there. They're going to be throwing the ball a little bit more. I know Jordan Addison is there, but it just feels like it's all lining up for Justin Jefferson, who has the most yards through year 23 season. He's set up to do it again. Kevin O'Connell wants to throw the ball a ton. Yeah, man, I think Justin Jefferson actually wins this, and he has the best odds because he's just so steady all the time. Nobody's ever done it at the level that he has.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, Justin Jefferson's on a tear right now. He's on a completely different level right now than really. I mean, obviously there's people creeping up on him, but Justin Jefferson is he's a stud. If you had to pick offensive player of the year from the 49ers, would it be McCaffrey, or
Yes.
do you think okay. Do you think that Debo, Ayuk, or Kittle could at all threaten, or is CMC just running away with it?
I think CMC is the clear favorite, but I have a hot take that I think it would be Brandon Ayuk who will be the person after this year that we're going to say, oh man, he's really like the guy that could be behind him. But yeah, no, I think it's McCaffrey, man. I think when you look at the way the offense moved, everything was talked about, which 49ers quarterback was playing at the time, but you can see the jump when Christian McCaffrey was on the field. Like the impact was immediate and it helped everybody on the field. So it not only helped the quarterback, it helped get wide receivers open because he demands attention, got himself open that he has all these weapons around him that they have to pay attention to. So he has more space as well too. There's just no way to hone in on this entire offense when they're all healthy and clicking. So yeah, I mean, it's still hard to believe that Christian McCaffrey's on our team. Like sometimes I still don't get it.
It is. And I'm really conflicted because I feel like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk could potentially have their best years at the same time. Like it's hard because CMC, you know what he is, you know what he's capable of, you know the gravity that he has, and then you have George Kittle as well. But it's just, I don't know. I'm having a hard time. I can't even pick Deebo or Ayuk because I have been a believer in Ayuk for a long time now. But Deebo, I feel like there's something that Deebo's cooking up, and I feel like he's about to go crazy. And if Deebo can add, again, that element of gravitational pull that CMC has, the NFL is going to be in a real bad spot if you have all these guys basically firing on all cylinders at the same time. So it's going to be fascinating to see, but it's hard to argue against CMC at this point. But who do you got for defensive player of the year? I mean, the San Francisco 49ers do have the residing defensive player of the year from last season. So it seems like we might have someone who has a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a baller, you just use your trophies as like battery holders. Like that's how good Nick Bosa is. Yeah, you know what? I want to be a little bit of a homer here, and I'm going to say that Bosa repeats, and Bosa's actually listed fourth. And I don't know if I can quantify this as like a slap in the face or disrespect, because when you look at Micah Parsons, who's the favorite at plus 650, Myles Garrett plus 750, TJ Watt plus 850, Bosa being at plus 1200, it's like, well, the guy won it last year. How did he end up fourth? But then you remember that those are three really good football players as well too, who do incredible jobs for their teams. Like especially, I think the buzz and the hype around Micah Parsons is when you look at like the raw numbers and everything else that he's been able to do. He actually generates a little bit more of a higher pressure rate than Nick Bosa. And if he can continue to keep that up, it's going to be hard to argue against him. So yeah, you can look at this immediately and say, well, why is the reigning defensive player of the year fourth? But then when you look at the players listed ahead, it's like they have to 1 through 4. If you put any of these other guys in different positions, I'm sure they would say, well, they need to be a little bit higher. It's just a bunch of great defensive players. But I'm going to say that Bosa wins it again. Funny enough, Fred Warner's listed at 4,500, and he's tied with Joey Bosa, the other Bosa. So yeah, no, you know what? I think Bosa wins this one. He gets his bag right before training camp starts. He comes out focused and he dominates again, and it's just a testament to how good the guy is, because we're talking about 3 players ahead of him that are extremely talented.
Yeah, I might. I'm not a big bettor. I got to figure out how to get to do that since I'm in California. But I really do think that the addition of Javon Hargrave is going to make Bosa's life easier to get more production, and that's really what it's a stats award, right? How many sacks can you rack up? That's why one of the reasons why Bosa really pulled away from Parsons is because Parsons stopped accumulating sack production. So Bosa just kept going. So I think it comes down to, obviously, a lot of these awards are based on stats, and rightfully so. But I do think Bosa is definitely going to have a shot to have more production than he had last year. So, if you had some money to throw, this is not betting advice. I think this is what they say.
Right.
But hey, I'd throw some money on that.
And the other thing is we have to remember last year Garrett was injured for a little bit. So was TJ Watt. I mean, for like the entire year as well too. Point. So again, it became more and more clear cut that it was Parsons and Bosa. So having them back for a full season and the players that they are kind of makes this more tough sledding now for Bosa. But you know what? Let's get Homer. I don't care, man. Let's just call it again. And at those odds, when you're looking at plus 1,200, that means if you put down $50, you're looking at an incredible investment, like that you can win back if he does that. The plus side, whenever you're doing that, obviously you win more. The minus side, you've got to put more money up to win, but you don't win as much money. So
yeah, definitely. Draymond Green just re-signed. Did you see
4 years? How do you feel about that, Warriors fan?
Listen,
that was not a sigh of enthusiasm.
It wasn't. Listen, I love Draymond. When we drafted him in the second round, I truly believed from the second we brought him, he was going to be a transcendent player for the Warriors, and he has. I mean, was it 4 years, $100 million? It's a love-hate relationship with Draymond. Like, I love what he provides. I love the defense, but the no offense, a lot of chirping. It gets. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a great thing. I'm definitely right there in the middle. Like, just it's what you're getting. You know what he provides. You know how he fits the team. You know the mentality that he brings. But you're also not getting a lick of offense out of him. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like I would have been okay if he signed somewhere else. I wouldn't be like crying or anything, but like him signing, I don't love it either. But we'll see how it goes.
You know more basketball than I do. I just watch in the playoffs and just like and throw like a money line bet on 1 or 2 of them. So I mean, I have no comment about that actually.
Yeah, I mean it's not something that I'm like, oh, the Warriors are back, baby, they're back. It's an okay move. It's all right. But anyways, offensive rookie of the year. What do you got here?
I mean, the Niners can't win it. Jake Moody's not going to win this award. Sorry, guys. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and be the rain on the parade. Hey, look, man, this is Bijan Robinson's award. I mean, at plus 250, it's almost like getting free money. You really, all you have to do is put down a few bucks. He's going to be utilized incredibly well in this offense with Arthur Smith. They've made massive improvements on the ball. They'll be in favorable game scripts. Bijan catches the ball. I mean, there's a reason that they drafted him so high. This one feels really easy, but I do find that it's a little interesting that a dark horse that I wouldn't mind throwing some money on for plus 1,700 is Jordan Addison. And for the same reasons that I talked about with Justin Jefferson is, Adam Thielen's not there. I think they think really highly of him. They took a little while for Justin Jefferson to get on board, which is what's crazy about his numbers, which are the best for anybody through their age 23 year. Is you hear you kid? You good?
No, we're good.
All right. Is he didn't play like in the first 3 games, and he kind of caught on later on. But I think Addison doesn't have that in his way. So 1,700 for Addison isn't bad. High volume offense. They're gonna throw it a lot, and Kirk. It doesn't matter if they win or lose the game. Kirk's still gonna put up numbers and give them chances to catch the ball. But it's Bijan's, man. I think this one's pretty easy. Plus 250 feels like free money.
Yeah, I mean Bijan's definitely going to take the bulk of those snaps for sure. And we saw what production Al-Jair was able to get last year. So again, you make a compelling case. But as you did talk about before, it is a quarterback-driven league.
It is.
So I am very interested. I'm a big fan of Anthony Richardson. I think he'll have a little bit more intensive developmental process. I think he'll be a good quarterback, but I think Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are very intriguing to me. I think Bryce Young coming into that where he gets Thielen, they add Mingo. They still got Chenault and they got some other weapons. They got a new coaching staff, just revamped in a lot of spots. And Bryce feels like he's a guy who can just step in and do it. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of learning on the job. It feels like he's kind of a plug and play type guy. So I would say for me it'd be between Bijan and Bryce, but CJ I wouldn't sleep on. He's been looking good from some of the things I've seen out of the Texans. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, sorry, Jake Moody. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Hey, if it does, that'd be incredible, right? He'd be the first kicker to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, that'd be
It's not happening. It's not happening.
It's not happening.
Defensive Rookie of the Year, what do you got?
You know what's funny is Jair Brown's not listed, and he was the highest pick on defense for the 49ers. The only 49er that's listed as Defensive Rookie of the Year is not Darrell Luter, it's not Beal, it's D. Winters at plus 10,000. Now, plus 10,000 makes it an impossibility at this point. But I really am shocked that like Tig's not on here at all, especially, knowing what we know. Hey, Brad Graham, did somebody drop on here that the 49ers are going to be running more 3 safety stuff? Good thing The Athletic confirmed that. And Tig's going to be on the field. So it's kind of weird that he's not listed at all. The Defensive Rookie of the Year is a little bit harder to predict, I think. Your first inclination is to go for the edge rushers, right? Will Anderson's the betting favorite, right? Plus 350. I feel like the Defensive Rookie of the Year can go to anybody. I chose Devin Witherspoon from Seattle. Don't yell at me, guys, please. I think at plus 900, when you're looking at him, he's going to play a lot. That defense is going to improve. He's got somebody across from him. I don't think they'll throw at him and he'll have his opportunities, but I think the world of the kid. I think he's very good as well, too. Sorry that I'm giving praise to a Seattle Seahawks guy, but we're talking about, the betting odds and everything. Plus 900 is where I would go with it at corner. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year.
Yeah, I could see that. That's definitely an interesting and not a bad one either, too, especially when you look at the Seattle's defense, how they're probably going to be much improved. A lot of expectations there. Tyree Wilson with the Raiders would be an interesting one in a pass rushing situation.
Oh, well, let me get his odds up while you talk so I can tell you who else is there.
Let's see who else. Lucas Van Ness would be interesting. Will
plus
McDonald.
1,500. Plus 1,500 for Lucas Van Ness.
What about Will McDonald?
Plus 1,800.
Ooh.
You know who's a really good one? That's like it's almost like if you lose, it doesn't even matter. But plus 2,500 for Joey Porter Jr.
Ooh, that's not bad.
See, but I got to give love to my corners. I love coverage and all that stuff. But Jack Campbell's plus 1,400, and Christian Gonzalez is plus 950. So he's the second highest cornerback.
Really, especially with what happened with their their other starting cornerback recently. It looks like that job's opened up.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah. He's got all the pressure in the world. Gonzalez, good luck, pal. What's Malcolm Butler up to these days?
Justin's guy, Kalijah Cansey. Wonder what he's at. But
he's at 2,500 with Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah, that's tough to make it as a defensive tackle. But yeah, like to your point, it's like it's either edge with the sack production or interception production. But
Jalen Carter plus 650.
So does that mean you can't even bet on Jair Brown? Like you just can't do it?
No, you can't. There's no write-in or anything like that at all.
That's wild.
Yeah, he's not even on there. That's kind of weird. Yeah,
because he does have a potential to be an interception machine in the opportunities that he gets. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Comeback player of the year. What do you got?
It's DeMar Hamlin's award. I mean, it's so much his award that he's minus 500. Like it's if he steps foot on the field even one time after what happened, he absolutely deserves comeback player of the year. The award should probably be renamed after him. Now let's get to the jokes. Funny enough, Jimmy Garoppolo plus 3,000 is listed ahead of Sam Darnold plus 3,000 and Trey Lance plus 3,500. Brock Purdy is not listed on
That
the
doesn't make
comeback
sense
player
to
of the
me.
year.
How's that? How's he not listed?
Right. And look, I wouldn't choose him because there's other guys who had like season-ending injuries like during the season and they're working their way back like after a full season. I mean, Brock Purdy's timeline has been pretty outlined pretty well, and it never was really too damning, especially with the but he's got to be listed. Let me find the other names on
Yeah,
here.
but you can make the case that
Yeah.
it happened so late in
Yeah.
the season, and
All right,
like
look.
he's up against it.
Look, here's another one. John Michie III. I mean, he
Yeah.
beat cancer plus 3,000. The same thing, Foster Moreau plus 3,000. But Russell Wilson plus 2,000. Tua plus 2,000. Lamar plus 2,500. Tua's coming back from an injury. Russell Wilson's coming back from sucking. Lamar Jackson's coming back from an injury. Cooper Kupp plus 2,500. That's an injury. Breece Hall, injury. You know, like Matthew Stafford, injury. Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, and Matthew Stafford, John Michie, Sam Darnold, Moreau all have the same plus 3,000. But like Jonathan Taylor's on it, TJ Watt's on it, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, Javonte, Calvin Ridley, who's coming back from the suspension. So there's a lot of guys here. Odell Beckham, plus 4,500. But yeah, some guys are just coming back from being terrible and not injuries on this list.
Yeah.
Like it's just
I wonder how that list is quantified because Sam Darnold played the last 6 games of the year for the Panthers, right? So he played.
What's he coming back from?
He's coming back from the Shadow Realm.
He's coming back from Carolina and New Jersey. He's just like, oh god.
They're like, that's the reason why we gave it to Geno, man. You see the path he took, we had to give it to him. I mean,
right.
He came back from hell and he made it back. So yeah, well, clearly Geno proved that it's not just an injury award. It's can you rebound from a pedestrian career, at least the way it started. Coach of the year, this one should be interesting.
Yeah, Dan Campbell is your front runner right now at plus 850. I think the Lions are going to be a sexy pick for everybody. The Lions, if you're going to watch people do their predictions, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have the Lions either winning that division or being in the playoffs. Does that happen? I don't know. But if they do, then he absolutely does because they're on a trajectory of being in the basement, drafting well, and moving up and making the playoffs, which is something that Lions fans are not really accustomed to at this point. And you got Sean Payton at plus 900, who's taking over for Denver. He can turn them around. If he can get Russell Wilson playing well, man, how much would that aid his cause? And I think we all agree that Sean Payton's a great coach.
And Matt Eberflus, the worst to first type situation.
Right, 100%. And that the Broncos' problem is that they don't have talent. They were just poorly coached, and Russ wasn't good last year. Like it's just plain and simple. And then Matt Eberflus has a really good shot, man, because if Justin Fields takes this leap that everybody believes, they win. If they even win 7-8 games, I think it puts him right in the discussion, just because of what he's had to deal with, and he's developed Justin Fields. So
Fields looks like a top 10 quarterback. It feels like he'll be at the top of the list.
Plus 1,100, right? And then Arthur Smith at plus 1,400. I'll tell you this: if the Broncos or the Lions or the Falcons make the playoffs, it's going to be one of those 3 guys. And Kyle Shanahan's at plus 3,000 with John Harbaugh and Sean McVay. But again, it's always going to be about Kyle Shanahan in this sense. This year is going to be a product of his own success, or he's going to be a victim of his own success. You kind of just set your watch to the 49ers winning a bunch of games, and everybody knows it's the same thing like John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid. Those guys aren't going to win Coach of the Year because you already know. Every year there's always going to be a coach that takes a team from nowhere to the playoffs or bounces back because he had a bad career and he has a really good season. Things like that. That's why it feels like it could be one of those first 4 guys. I'll tell you this, man. It's going to be hard for you to turn away Dan Campbell if the Lions put it all together and they make the playoffs this year like many people think.
Yeah, definitely. Arthur Smith is an interesting one because I just think back to when the Falcons played the 49ers and they just out-executed them. And to me, that's coaching. Like that's putting together a game plan. They knew exactly how to attack the 49ers. They beat them with their own game plan and they executed it flawlessly. Like, when I was talking to Ayuk, he was like, there was no way we were going to come out that game with the W. Like they just outperformed us. Like they just out-executed us at every step. And to me, that is again, that's part of coaching. The coaches got to put your guys in position to be successful. So, but I agree with Dan Campbell. Again, if you get Jared Goff back, you get, all those guys. They add Gibbs. You have, of course, Amon-Ra. They have
Emmanuel
some
Mosley.
weapons, man. And, now I guess it was Jamison Williams, who's going to be suspended
Mhm.
for the gambling.
Maybe we shouldn't be talking about gambling when we're talking about the Lions.
Gambling odds.
Yeah.
But he'll be back later in the season.
Wait a minute.
So again,
Are we gonna get suspended for talking gambling too? Like, is this? Oh no, I hope not. Oh God. But having said all that, Brad, and I do think that Dan Campbell has a very good shot. I am gonna take Coach Mike in Miami actually at plus 2,000. That's who I think is gonna win Coach of the Year. So look, the offense is gonna be fine as long as Tua is on the field. You know that they're gonna be able to put up points. But somebody wrote a tweet, and I wish I could say their name so I can give it to them, but the only defense that the Miami Dolphins would face that is better, that is just even close to the New York Jets, is probably their own. Like, the Dolphins are stacked on defense, man.
They are.
The Jalen Ramsey thing is big. Getting the Godfather Vic, that's huge. So they're going to probably make the playoffs. And if they start to be a dominant defense and that offense starts to score points and they win a bunch of games, give me Coach Mike at plus 2,000. Shout out to Coach Mike, man. That's
what if they get Dalvin? What if they get Dalvin too?
I mean, that would also help as well too. I mean, I love Achane. I think that he's going to be great, and then Wilson, Mostert is still there. But if they get Dalvin, it's just like a glove in hand fit. The defense is probably what I'm more excited about because I already know what Coach is about to do offensively. And if Tua's healthy, man, the Dolphins are really good this year.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I could see that. Dolphins for sure. Absolutely have a shot. I mean, their defense was all over the 49ers last year, and that was Brock Purdy's coming out party, and they were throwing zero blitz at him, and he was just like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to handle this. But how often can you duplicate those types of performances? Yeah, I don't mind that one at all. Mike McDaniel, we know Miami Mike out here cooking. We saw him
Coach
at the combine working his magic. It looks like a signature, like all white fit always. Like he's always in all white. So I guess that's the Miami Mike look that he's got cooking.
Quote of the combine was he was sitting there with Florio and Sims, and he said, "Oh, you look like money." He's like, "Yeah, not trying to hide it." He was like, "I didn't have money for a lot of my career, in my life." Oh man, shout out to Coach Mike, man, a legend. And for anybody who thinks that that's a shtick, I can guarantee you 100% that is Mike all the time, and he's as nice and funny and quirky off the camera as he is on it.
He's just one of those legendary personalities.
That's it. When he said he remembered me from the other combine, I was like, Coach, I love you, man. I was like, you're the man. Like, you didn't have to say that at all, man. I was like, that's so awesome.
Didn't you ask him the Mike Jones question, right?
I did. Off the record though. So, it was the first combine, so that was 2 years ago. So we got through the metal detectors, we're going in, and Coach Mike walks right behind us. And Jordan's like, yo, Coach Mike. I was like, I am not passing up this opportunity. And I just turned around, and you know me, Brad. I'm just gonna start up a conversation with anybody. I don't care. And I was like, Coach, I was like, my name is Jason, and Jordan. I was like, we cover the 49ers. He was like, hey, thank you guys. You guys have always been good to me and everything. And I was like, look, just real quick, your favorite Mike Jones song. And he didn't even flinch. He was like, Clubbing featuring Paul Wall. I was like, Coach, you're a legend, man. I was like, go get him, man. And that was right before John Lynch spoke, right? And then he got off of the stage when John Lynch was on. And if you remember, John Lynch is talking about McDaniel, and McDaniel's standing there on the side, and he just was like, heck yeah, John. Like none of that is scripted. None of that is a guy doing a shtick. That is Coach Mike all the time, man. So always rooting for Coach Mike.
Yeah, always got love for Mike for sure. But we'll see. We'll see who, if any of the 49ers come away with any hardware. Like, would you say Bosa's the leader in the clubhouse to come away with some hardware?
Yeah, I've got Bosa as a prediction. You can certainly see Christian McCaffrey walking away with Offensive Player of the Year. That's largely relying on his health, but it's just I mean, it could possibly be that Justin Jefferson is like my favorite player in the league, and it's just a joy to watch him play. But I think when you look at everything that's kind of set up, the high passing volume, his contract year, he's going to get a massive extension, his track record, Kirk is going to hyper target him. I just think that this is the year where you're going to see more touchdowns than you saw last year as well too, because it felt like that's the only place where he really kind of lacked a little. I just think that there's still room for Justin Jefferson to get better. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. JJ's killing it right now. How did he last that long?
He's a slot receiver, Brad. He's only a slot receiver. That's it.
I remember those arguments like it was yesterday. Like
narrative.
Because he only played out of or majority played out of the slot. They're like, oh, there's no way he could be an outside receiver because he played slot in college. How can you go from slot? I'm just like, you guys, you don't have the vision.
And speaking about McShay, because this is so good, right? Like I've been digging back, like while I've been chilling and not, tweeting and yelling at people and being like, being normal again. I love looking back at what people were saying about players and like what I thought about players, because it's so funny how you have it in your mind that this player is going to be this. And then you kind of lose sight of the fact that he might not be that and he can develop in other ways. I think that's the biggest part of the whole like scouting thing, that while we're doing it, it's still amateur, but obviously it's, Brad's really good at it, but it's still more funny to watch people try to smash like a square into a circle peg, because they're leaving out the fact that they had this assessment. So this assessment, I don't want to be wrong, but there is that chance that guy could develop that. And that happens all the time, that all of a sudden they just, you lost sight of the forest to look at the trees, if that makes any sense. Like you lost the big picture.
Yeah. And that's the big thing with scouting, is you're projecting. It's a projection. Like you have to be able to try to see how guys fit in other situations. Can they translate, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see. Penelope says, I think Brad secretly likes Dallas. No,
Get him.
I secretly like the Carolina Panthers.
He's the double agent. It's a crisscross on a crisscross. I'm not the double agent for the Eagles. He's the double agent for the Cowboys. That's a plot twist.
Where did the Dallas thing come from? But for sure, sign me up. Get me a Brian Burns Panther jersey. Give me the 0. I'd rock that. I'd rock that any day of the week. Dallas, though, I can't vibe with that. I'll vibe with some Carolina Panthers, though. But we're back, state of the franchise, after taking some time off. And again, like, we are still probably about a month away from training camp, so there's still a lot of time, a lot of airtime to fill. So we'll see how it goes. I'm like Jason. I got 1 foot in, I'm 1 foot out, trying to, keep it afloat, but like also maintain my mental health at the same time. So it's definitely a fine line to balance.
And Brad, I want to just say I'm proud of you. You know why?
Or what?
We went an hour and 12 minutes and had no conversation about the San Francisco 49ers quarterback position and the players that play there. Brad, we need a medal.
That's impressive.
And if you want, you guys can, send some cookies and stuff, you're welcome. Okay. It's part of the reason that I completely stayed away from it. I cannot keep giving these same answers. Well, we'll see in training camp. Training camp is close, and that means I get to hang out with Brad, and the fun really starts. Summer really starts when training camp is on, right? Like, that's when we really outside.
It really does. What's amazing about the quarterback talk is that at this current stage, nothing will change.
No.
Right? But the same things will be said, or new like nuggets will be dropped, but ultimately nothing will be decided until they get on the field.
Yes. And that's literally, I could say that.
That's not fun to talk about as we're like anti-content creator right now, but that's
I could say that every single day until training camp, and every single day it'll be true and it'll never change. It's the funniest thing, man. It's the funniest thing to watch people try to twist the quarterback position another way and talk about it. You can't. It's done. And that's why, it doesn't matter. People can talk about whatever they want, whoever, that's fine. But you have so many opinions that there's only like 3 or 4 real things that can be said that are actually true. And I'm sure somebody's already said it. So why do you need to hear about it from me? I'm good.
Or if you've said it, how many times can you just say the same thing over and over again? It's just like, I have my thoughts on the quarterback, but I've already said them a million times. It's like,
I can say it for you.
This person said this. Let's talk about this person saying this, which still doesn't change my original opinion, but we're talking about it because it's the off season. Well, congratulations. We did it.
Well, I think a lot of people were creating content about our old buddy Albert Breer. You remember Albert Breer, right? From the
Albert Breer. Albert Breer, you have some of your biggest risers from the combine. I don't know. I don't know if Breer
He was a faller. I think he's a faller. Yeah, like I mean, it felt like he bombed the interview, like more than anything. Like, like you get in there, you get to figure out what the guy is, and then you're like, I don't know if I can invest in this.
It's really hard to bomb the combine. No, you typically show up, you put in your work, you're going to rise in of itself, but he really stood out as someone that like an opposite of that.
The best part is this is obviously Brad and I going back and forth on an inside joke about like what happened in Indy, but yeah.
Oh man, that's a good memory. Good times.
You'll never forget that. You'll never forget.
Every time I
hear his name, I'm like, oh my god! I just get more mad.
It's hilarious.
I just get more mad. Brad just be like, yo, just chill, man.
One day when we do our memoirs and our tell-all of content creation over the decades, we'll share that story. Yep. But another good one, Jason, appreciate you hopping on. Appreciate all the SDS. Appreciate the Spicy Squad. Appreciate everyone tapping in for State of the Franchise. Typically, I say grab some cookies on your way out. We're taking the cookies, though, for not talking about the quarterback position. We're getting all the cookies, sorry, for this time around. But next time, stick around. You'll get the cookies. Shout out to everyone for tapping in. Any last words? Content coming up. We are on Friday, so I know I take the weekends. I'm sure you're taking the weekends. Oh, you're chilling. You're vibing right now.
As parents at home. Yeah, right. Parents at home while Brad is at home with all his kids. I have been home alone for a few days, and any parent out there, you look, you love your family, you love your kids, but you definitely need a break. And these last few days have been so. If I look a little bit more rosy and I'm hanging out and I'm chilling and
calm, you just
I'm
look
chilling.
Like
man,
you don't look like a 49ers content creator. I'm actually
completely took time away from the whole thing. Watched everybody. Look, I was still watching. Everybody was arguing. I love watching arguments, but I don't got to be involved in it. Completely got my mind.
4th of July.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So a lot, but I mean, every day Niners Nation. That's where you've been finding most of my content. Writing every day on there. And I wanted to plug every day. Well, not the weekends. The weekends I'm off.
But still, we're talking Monday, Friday. We take the Monday for ourselves. We aren't
Monday through Friday.
We aren't that insane.
No, Monday through Friday, and I wanted to talk about Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you guys use promo code Aponte. I'm gonna get back, start sending some best ball drafts. If you guys want to be in a fantasy league with me,
about that time.
Punch in that promo code Aponte on Underdog Fantasy and get your first deposit up to $100 doubled.
State of the Franchise Fantasy League. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, baby.
Let's use some Underdog Fantasy. Maybe
best ball. I love it, man. I mean, for us, we're busy, so it's hard to like command all those leagues and make transactions and all that stuff. Best ball is your best way to play.
That's what is it all season or is it week to week?
It's all season. We have week-to-week games that I'm going to be putting out there too, where you do daily fantasy. But best ball, essentially, you draft your team, and the guys who score the most points, they get in your lineup. No worried about start sits, none of that stuff. That's the best part about best ball. We're all busy.
We might have to cook something up.
Hell yeah.
We'll see. But you already know what to do. Stream it on both channels. Like and sub to both. We'll get back on a regular basis. We'll probably be going in and out with State of the Franchise all the way, but when training camp's here, we're cooking. We'll definitely be locked in, ready to go. But appreciate everyone tapping in. We're out for now. Right intro. Let's go. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.